Hello learners, welcome to our today's lesson. My name is Teacher Lilian from Greenview Schools, Kamulu. So in our today's lesson, we are going to be focusing on human origin, and we shall be discussing the theories that normally explains the origin of humankind. We normally have three theories that explains the origin of humankind. The first theory being evolution theory, which is also known as scientific theory. The second one being mythical theory, also known as traditional theory. And the last one, creation theory, which is also known as religious theory. But in our today's lesson, our main focus is going to be on evolution theory. We are going to explain evolution theory so that you can get to know what evolution theory states about the origin of humankind. Before we start by explaining evolution theory, start by defining the term evolution. What is evolution? Evolution, it is the gradual and continuous change in living organisms, mainly from simple to complex form. In other words, we can say evolution, it is the process through which human beings gradually advanced from a simple creature to who they are today, that is the modern man, over the million years ago. According to evolution theory, the theory was normally written by a scientist known as Charles Darwin. And Charles Darwin normally wrote down the theory in a book which is known as The Origin of Species. The Origin of Species by means of natural selection. So he wrote the theory down in his book, The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, in the year 1859. So according to Charles Darwin, the theory normally states the present-day man is evolved from different stages from the early man. So according to evolution theory, human beings normally gradually, they changed in different state or factors. The theory states that the present-day man normally evolved from the early man. According to the theory, human beings went through different changes. These are the physical changes or physical advancement. Then we have the intellectual advancement, and lastly, through cultural advancement. When we speak about the physical changes, this is where we get to know by, when we look about the different stages of human being, every stage, the man who evolved after the other stage, they had different features, the advanced features that are different from the previous one. Then the intellectual capacity, their brain went on increasing, and the cultural and the activities that they normally involved themselves into, they are the modern activities or the advanced activities of the man. So evolution theory is normally focuses on the excavation of fossils. And this now brings us into another new term, which is the term fossils. What are fossils? So when we speak about fossils, fossils are the preserved remains of plants and animals that lived many years ago. It is through the study of fossils that we get to know different stages of evolution. So according to the fossils, why do the archaeologists need to excavate fossils and study them? The excavation of the fossils and the study of fossils normally had advantages. And through the study of fossils, people were able to know how long the creature or the species lived. They were able to know where they lived, their main activities, and most particularly, they were able to know the climate of the time during which the fossils were excavated. So when we look according to evolution theory, fossils were mainly excavated from different prehistorical sites. Africa had many prehistorical sites. And when we mention this, particularly we are mentioning the Eastern Africa. In Eastern Africa, we have various prehistorical sites where fossils were majorly excavated. An example of prehistorical site, for example, Fort Tenan is an example of prehistorical site that is found in Kenya. Then we have Old Vaijot in Tanzania. We have Omo Valley in Ethiopia, among others. Archaeologists used to excavate fossils and then they studied them. After fossils were studied and excavated, they were then taken to museums for preservation. Although fossils have been discovered in various parts of Africa, in various parts of the world, Africa has been discovered or has been mentioned to be the continent with the most fossils. And this makes now the belief that Africa turns out to be the cradle of humankind. Before even we take on some of the factors that normally turns out to prove Africa is the cradle of humankind, let's just start by taking on the stages of evolution. The first stage of evolution is Egyptopithecus. Egyptopithecus was the first species to be discovered, and it was discovered in Fayum Depression in Egypt. Stage number 2, we have Dryopithecus, and the Dryopithecus were mostly discovered in Rusinga Highland, and Rusinga Highland is majorly found in Kenya. Then we have Ramapithecus, which is also known as Kenyapithecus. The species of Ramapithecus were normally discovered in Fort Tenan, that is in Kenya. Then we have the fourth stage as Australopithecus. Australopithecus was a species of evolution that was normally discovered in town in Botswana, and there were also other species that were discovered in Omo Valley. Omo Valley is normally found in Ethiopia. We have Homo habilis as another stage of evolution, and it was discovered in Tanzania in a place called Old Vaijot. We have Homo erectus, also discovered in part of Eastern Africa, Ethiopia, a place called Hada Valley. Then we have Homo sapien, which was discovered in northern Zambia, and Homo sapiens sapien, the modern man, and it was discovered all over Africa. So Homo sapiens sapien is the last stage of evolution that is normally found in all other parts of evolution. So as we look at the last bit of our lesson, that is, factors that normally proves Africa is the cradle of humankind. Factors that proves Africa is the cradle of humankind. I know most of you might be asking yourself, what is cradle of humankind? Cradle of humankind, it simply means the origin of humankind. Why there is a belief that normally state Africa is the origin of humankind? Are there proofs to prove that Africa is the origin of humankind? Yes, we have proofs that normally are proving Africa is the origin of humankind. So as we've mentioned about the cradle of humankind, the cradle of humankind simply means the origin of humankind. According to evolution theory, there were some beliefs that Africa is the cradle of humankind. Here are some factors that are proving Africa as the cradle of humankind. Factor number 1, we have archaeological evidence. Africa has many archaeological sites, and through these archaeological sites, fossils were excavated from these areas, therefore proving Africa as the cradle, because the first species of man was discovered in Africa, that is Egyptopithecus in Egypt. We have factor number 2, all-season rivers. We had many rivers in Africa that provided water for use for man. Then we have the third factor, that is savanna grassland. Savanna grassland normally favored the settlement of man, therefore proving Africa as the cradle of humankind. Then we have factor number 4, tropical climate. Tropical climate normally favored Africa, therefore providing grounds for hunting and gathering. Therefore people could be able to get food. Man could be able to get food through hunting and gathering. And we have factor number 5, geographical location. As we all know, Africa is centrally located from other continents. When we take from other continents, it is only Africa that is centrally located, and this provoked or made people to migrate to Africa, hence making it a better place for living. Hence, Africa is the cradle of humankind. And the last one, we have good fertile soils. Good fertile soils in Africa provided a better ground for agriculture, hence increasing productivity and providing man with enough food to eat. So that is all for today. We've learned about people and population human origin, and in our lesson we've seen we have 3 theories of human origin, that is evolution theory, mythical theory, and creation theory. And we've checked on evolution theory, and we've discussed in our lesson that evolution, it is a gradual change or advancement where human being evolved or gradually changed from a simple form to a complex form. We've known that evolution theory was written by a scientist known as Charles Darwin, and he wrote the information in his book, which is The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, in the year 1859. As we were learning about evolution, we came along the term fossils, and we said fossils, these are the remains of plant and animals that lived so many years ago. And we've seen it is through these fossils that we were able to discover, and we were able to get through different stages of evolution. Fossils were majorly excavated, and they were excavated by the people called archaeologists. And archaeologists, these are scientists who normally studies the history and the origin of human beings. We've gone through the stages of evolution as Egyptopithecus, Dryopithecus, Ramapithecus, Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo sapien, and lastly, Homo sapiens sapien. As we've concluded, we've checked why Africa is referred to as cradle for humankind, and we've looked upon 6 factors that proves Africa is the cradle of humankind, and we've checked factor number 1, archaeological evidence. Number 2, all seasonal rivers. Factor number 3, we have savanna grassland. We have tropical climate, geographical location of Africa, and lastly, we have good climate in Africa. As we come to the conclusion of our lesson, we have an assignment for you to do. We're going to be explaining the following terms, that is the term cradle of humankind, evolution, fossils, and archaeology. Then we shall be checking at your answers during our next lesson. I've been your teacher, Teacher Lilian, and I hope you've enjoyed the lesson.